Welcome to Table for One, Jeremy Dawe. It is a true pleasure to have you here in person with us. You're always so helpful about sending questions and thoughts and comments for us to talk about during our lunch date. So it's really great to see you here in person. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this, definitely.
So have we. So the movie you selected for us to watch in all 2.5 hours of its minimalist, realistic glory is Gaspar Noé's Vortex. Will you please describe it for us, Jeremy?
Okay, Gaspar Noé decided to actually play it straight and not goof around for the most part. And it's the story of an elderly couple residing in a Parisian house. They're known as he and she. The female actress has dementia, and the male, who is a famed Italian giallo director, Dario Argento, is the he, and it's kind of like the slow breakdown of like their life. And I really was like taken aback by just how profound it is as a meditation on the death experience, which I'm not usually a big fan of, but I was thoroughly just surprised by it, given his entire filmography that I've seen up to this point.
Yeah. So of all the movies in all the world, why did you want to review this one with us?
I was thinking if I wanted to do a table for one, maybe it was something that Christy or Nora Alonso have seen, because to be able to have that communal experience of being able to watch something. It was when I believe the AFI list had the Jean Dielman as like the most inspiration, the biggest, number one, the new number one, so to speak. And you guys were talking about it, and you ended up doing a separate video. And so I was thinking that's a good idea for Table for One, because they can't see everything in a year, a calendar year. So.
Yeah, that was the Sight and Sound list, right?
Yes,
Alonso, they do it every 10 years. They do that. Yeah. So you had seen this already. Did you rewatch it in preparation for talking to us?
No, because it just kind of like burned into my head. I got tipped to it. A contributor to RogerEbert.com, Glenn Kinney. We follow each other on socials, and he had dropped this like note, and then I read his review of it, and I was like, Kenny doesn't seem to have the patience for a lot of like Noé's usual nonsense, like when it comes to like his presentation. And for him to give like a 4 out of 4 stars, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to check this out now, because like Glenn just seems to be kind of like a critic that's a tough nut to crack sometimes. So
yes, we know Glenn Kenny. Alonso, you had not seen Vortex prior to this, correct?
I had not.
Okay. What are your thoughts on it?
I'll tell you, Jeremy, you could not have picked a movie that like mashes more of my I don't want to see him buttons than this film. I've told the story in Linoleum Life when Dave and I went to see Away from Her. That on the way home, I was like, just at the end of the movie and into the car, I was just like sobbing. And when I finally could like catch my breath, I basically said, if that ever happens to me, I want you to promise to murder me, and like murder pudding has become an ongoing joke in this household and on the podcast and stuff, because like, my biggest fear in life is dementia and like losing my mental faculties and not knowing where I am and being frightened all the time. Like The Father fucked me up. So this movie was just like a goddamn nightmare. So thanks for that. Also, weirdly enough, we had just like hours before I watched it, we'd been having a conversation about the possibility of like, would we ever leave Los Angeles when we get older? Because, we're both in the next 10 years, we're both going to hit retirement age. Not that we really get to retire because we're writers, and the whole idea about like setting up in a new place. And what about all the stuff in our apartment and the books and the this and that? And so all of these issues are coming up in this movie. And I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say it absolutely is new ground for Gaspar Noé. Like last guy in the world I ever would have thought would go into slow cinema.
Yes.
But here we are. And I'm impressed with it. Obviously, it's powerful and it's uncompromising. I mean, this is the movie for people who thought Amour was too cheery. But it was a tough sit for me.
Yeah.
What about you, Christy?
So I had not seen it before. I had seen some Gaspar Noé. I'd seen Climax recently. And as it began, Jeremy, I got to be honest, I'm like, I was not optimistic about this for a
Same.
couple of reasons. One of which is like that split screen conceit seemed just like too cutesy and too distracting. And also, what they're each doing in the split screen in the beginning is wandering through really cramped and cluttered spaces. So the Virgo in me, like my eyes twitching, like, I want to fix all the books.
Yeah.
What is happening here? But then it reminded me, pretty quickly of Jean Dielman, as you say. And so I thought while I was watching it, I'm like, I bet Alonzo is going to love this because he loves Jean Dielman. As far as I knew that you had the dementia concern, Alonzo, but I also know how much you appreciate the methodical, patient nature of Jean Dielman and the way that it rewards you for paying attention to like the banal minutia of her daily routine. And so I figured, okay, this is going to be the case here as well, where like it lulls you in with them puttering around the house and like not really talking to each other. But then you realize as the days go on, just how much they are each deteriorating. And then it becomes a horror movie.
Yes.
Right? Like once you realize, okay, she's left the gas on.
Yeah.
And once you realize that like she's prescribing herself pills that she shouldn't be having.
Right.
And there's so many things happen that are just terrifying one after another that it was so gripping. And I think my parents both died when I was young. I was in my mid-20s when they died, and they were both pretty young when they died. So I never had to deal with this, but I have friends who have and are currently dealing with it. And it must be so frustrating and so heartbreaking to have like the same conversation over and over again, to wonder what's going to happen when they walk out the door and yet want to maintain their dignity as a human being to give them some sense of independence. And so I felt all of those tensions in watching it. I was so sucked in. And I'm so glad that I watched it. I mean, glad, but like, I was so impressed by the restraint of it. And also when you realize this is Dario Argento's first film performance, it's bizarre. Like, I wonder what that was like for him to be directed by somebody else.
Yes. And then apparently, like French is a second language to him, but like, I read the thing that like, some people were critical about like his accent, it's like, well, you don't sound authentically French, and I was like, well that's a very French thing to say.
Yeah. they make it a point to say that the character is Italian. So,
Yeah, no, they do address that. And then eventually in time, like I found that the use of the split screen was so chilling, whether it was like a symmetry of him lying on his side, having the heart attack and convulsing side by side with her just deeply sleeping and being unable to wake and to help him when he needs it most. And then the way they handle his death is just chilling and heartbreaking. The way that the screen goes to green, it's like he fades into the sheets, like the color of the sheets take over, and then you're just seeing her and her side, and you want to tug on her sleeve and go, get back in there, back in there, because he is dying alone, and she is not with the man she loves who she's built a life with when he's dying, and it's so heartbreaking. And then the thing with the son, when the son comes up and she's like, is he all right? Yeah. And it's like, no, he's not. And that whole relationship with them is so complicated because at first she doesn't even recognize him and wants to kiss him. And then he reverts to a childlike state, curling up in her lap when daddy dies. Like everything about it in the most understated, stripped down ways is so powerfully human and just heartbreaking. And and then I noticed also, like in the beginning, it's not in split screen. In the beginning, when they're both like lucid and coherent, they are a unified team and they can share the screen. And then you see what happens when the split happens. So
I was just like really taken by just like the character of the home itself, because I was like much like Jean Dielman. I was like, all those books, like the photographs, the paintings, I was like, this is a life lived. It really did feel lived in. So I understood the struggle of, well, if we go to a home, what's going to happen to all of our stuff? Like
and those
that
final
house was a
shots
character in its own right.
Yeah, those final shots where it's empty are just so devastating. It also kind of reminds me of, Christy, did we review One Fine Morning?
Yes, with Léa Seydoux?
Yes.
Because
the books are a big issue in that movie too, as you'll recall. Her father, who is like dealing with dementia and having to be like taken off somewhere, is this professor, and he's just got like this incredible library and just trying to figure out what to do with all of it, and like summer hours, because that's an issue too, like all the art in the house and the house itself, like it is very much an issue of dealing with people who are at that age. Like what are they going to do with all that stuff, and like who's going to be in charge of it? Dave's a big fan of that book, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, which basically says that like once you're 50, you really need to like pare down the things that you have, so that if you like drop dead all of a sudden, it's not this insane morass of things for people to deal with. And you also have to sort of assign people to be in charge of things. So like we have a friend who is our Swedish death, librarian, who'll deal with the books and like the physical media, and another one who will deal with the albums, another one who will deal with the art, because they'll actually know what things are and what things have value and don't have value, but you have to think about that stuff, and it's a little scary, and it's just a reminder that yes, you'll be dead soon.
Yeah. I am thankful to my mom. My mom died at 60, and she knew she was sick for a while, and I did not know how sick she was for a while. But she did a lot of that. And so she had like, you got to make 2 phone calls. Here's the lawyer who knows where everything is with the money, and here's the real estate agent to call to sell the house, who she'd already shown the house to, and he already knew what he wanted to price it at. And so like she got rid of a bunch of stuff. And so I'm endlessly thankful to her for that I didn't have to go through a house and go through books and clothes. Like there was some stuff, but it was pared down. And we are very minimalist.
Yes.
we don't have a whole lot of stuff in our house either. My house and Alonso's house are very different.
I'm a maximalist.
I always like try to sneak a peek of what's on Alonso's bookshelf, like when you guys do the video, because I like how you kind of refresh them up every once in a while, switch stuff up. I'm like, ooh, that's a new title. What is it? So.
Astute viewers know.
We should do a tour sometime. I'll just hold my laptop really close, and that'd
be a really good short, actually, Alonso. If you ever wanted to do a YouTube short for me, just like shoot your bookshelves and here's this. And I also thought it was so sad that the dad is having an affair.
Yeah.
That the dad has, for a lot of reasons, but one of which is like your wife is suffering and you're not there for her, but also it's this sad kind of delusional quality of like, I can be happy and find love again. Yeah. It's like, no, you can't.
I just figure it's France, that's just, it's what you do. I don't know.
That is what you do in France. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. And then I also was like,
anyway.
I was screaming at the screen when she was tearing up his stuff, as much as I like tidying.
Oh my God.
I know.
I can't even, like, that whole thing was just like, my ultimate nightmare. Like you're in the middle of writing a book and somebody just comes in and throws it all in the toilet. Like, yeah.
She puts a lot of stuff in the toilet. It's not smart.
No.
Like all the drugs go in the toilet.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt really bad for Stefan, too. I felt so bad for Stefan that he lost both his parents back to back. They started using again. And then once he occupies one half of the screen and his little boy comes in and like watches him. Is he smoking heroin? Is that what it is, do we think?
Yeah. I think it was, yeah.
I out loud at 10:30 at night. I'm like, no.
When he lets that woman come in, and it's like, the kid's at home, isn't he?
But at that point, you almost can't blame him. Like he's been through so much, and if this is this thing that like alleviates his pain briefly, like it's sad because he's clearly an addict and he's struggling, but like you kind of understand.
I mean, look, everybody's parents die almost, and I mean, yes, I'm not completely not, forgiving about that, but it's like, it's not like, they were suddenly in an accident. Like he knows they're both sick. Like he knows the dad has a heart condition, the mom has dementia, and like whatever his therapy process is, he should be talking about it and not just like losing his mind about it. But yes, granted, it is a tough thing to go through, having been there.
Yeah. Hey, Jeremy, so did you see John Dielman?
Yes, I did. After Sight and Sound had published it, Criterion, I subscribed to their streamer, and that was like an immediate email. Guess who has like the now #1 Sight and Sound movie streaming on their platform? So I watched it, and I was just pulled in. I mean, I was like kind of like the first 20 minutes of that one, I was like, I don't know. I mean, this feels like an experimental movie, but then like I just got stuck into like how you did, where it was just like, what little misstep did she do? Because everything is so formal and like rigid, you know, when she starts deviating from it, then it's like, what's going on in her head? You know, yeah, I don't know. It was a profound movie. And so Vortex playing like it did, I was like, he's going away from the Kubrick, you know, aesthetic, so to speak, you know, 2001. And I think minimalism actually serves Gasper a little bit better, though I think he's said, I'm going to go back to my normal nonsense, you know, my next movie. So.
And how did you discover his films in the first place?
Ebert and Roper. 2002, I believe it was. Roger gave his Cannes report, and Irreversible had screened at Cannes, and Irreversible caused massive walkouts at Cannes, and he was just like saying, it's a hard sit. I don't recommend it to everyone. Richard picked up the, you know, pearl clutching on that one, just like, oh my gosh, it was torture, you know. So, but that had me thinking, okay, like if they're so vehemently opposite of each other, because I know Ebert didn't appreciate like the whole story, but just like the immersive quality of it, he was just like, you need to watch it because you've not seen a movie like this before, you know, like you had to wait till it got him out on DVD. And that's just kind of like my first exposure to Dawe. So,
what do you think of that movie?
It's a very difficult sit, most assuredly. I just like you have to just skip over a chapter or two, you know, just because like especially if you watch it the first time, you're like, I can't watch that part again. You know, I mean, I don't know. I understand.
What's that?
Go ahead. Sorry. No, sorry, go ahead. I was just
going to say, I know that he, for a time, wanted to be the poster boy of new French extremism, you know, and like he was very much like, I'm going to bring Salo to the 21st century or whatever. I don't know. I mean, those like the movies he would constantly reference, you're just like, yeah, that's a very niche kind of grotesque, you know, genre you're wanting to operate in. So,
no, I was just going to say, not that you'd want to necessarily watch it again, but he did put out a new edit of it, I think a year or two ago, called Reversible, where they tell it in order.
Yeah.
Oh.
Does it? I don't know if it plays different because it was shattering the way it's originally like edited. Because I was just like, but I didn't know if like does that lessen the sting of it? I don't know. I don't plan on watching it. I haven't seen it either.
I've never seen either version. Like people told me what Irreversible was. I was like, no, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah. But a lot of times when something like that is that divisive, like I want to see it more. Yeah. Like I want to know.
Yeah.
I think Love might be the only one of his films that I've seen before this one. I was literally sitting in another room one time when Dave was watching Enter the Void, and it was still disturbing me. And all I could do was, I was just hearing it at a distance. And I was like, what is this movie? It's freaking me out. You know, and I wasn't even watching it. So yeah, he's a lot for me.
Yeah. That one's streaming on Tubi right now, Enter the Void. I don't know if Christy's ever been, you know, involved. Have you ever seen that movie yet?
No, I've not.
Okay.
Should I?
I don't know. I mean, if you like the Stargate sequence in 2001, but you need a lot more sex and drugs and...
Go on YouTube and watch the opening credits. The opening credits are amazing.
Okay.
Yes.
It's interesting, though, that when you saw it on Ebert and Roper, and that Ebert was the one who was more of a fan of it, and that Roper was uptight, because back when Siskel and Ebert existed, like Siskel was like the more intellectual risk taker, and Ebert was more of like the everyman. So it's interesting how that sort of like shifted over in that regard. So. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So if you were to give this movie a number, Jeremy, from 1 to 10, what would you give to Vortex?
I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but I mean, it's very involving and it's one that you don't easily forget. It just kind of sticks with you. So
yeah. Alonzo, what would you say?
Yeah, I'm up there. I'd say like a 7.8, but I think like Jeremy, I never want to watch it again.
Yeah, I'll say 7.5 because I really appreciate the precision of it, but I don't know that it needed to be 2.5 hours long. I think he could have achieved that, but maybe he has to like lull you in, and so the punch is that much harder because you spent so much time with them. But I just felt like, okay, we can still achieve this feeling of, you know, division and horror in a more efficient way.
Yes.
So thank you, Jeremy,
Thank
for
you.
bringing us into the vortex here. We really enjoy talking with you. We're so thrilled to see you in person, and hopefully you can make a lunch date again one of these days soon when you are not in school.
Yes, definitely.